GM, welcome everyone. My name is Matt Medved, co-founder, CEO, and editor-in-chief of NFT Now, and we have the Doodles Fireside Chat. Incredible panel here. I'm really excited for it. Julian, Ingi, want to just give some brief introductions, and then we can dive into things?
For sure, yeah. Hi everyone. Everyone enjoying Paris? All right.
Come on, we could do better than that. Is everybody enjoying Paris? There we go.
Not a much better setting for an NFT conference, I would say. But I'm Julian Holguin. Thank you for having me. I'm the CEO of Doodles. Came on board about 4 or 5 months into the project, and now helping lead the charge as Doodles scales into what will one day be one of the biggest media franchises in the world.
Love that. Love that. Let's go.
Yeah, and I'm Ingi Erlingsson. I am Chief Content Officer of Doodles, formerly CEO and founder of Golden Wolf, which just got acquired by Doodles. So been working in animation and content for an awfully long time, and yeah, looking forward to doing some amazing stuff with Doodles.
Amazing. Well, look, we're going to get into all of the details there with the acquisition and the like. But why don't we lead things off? Julian, Doodles just launched Doodles 2, or just announced Doodles 2 on Flow. Tell us a bit about the vision there and what people can expect from this new chapter for the project.
So the intent behind launching Doodles 2 was very much to be prepared for this moment where more demand comes for digital collectibles. And I think that's ultimately what everybody in this space wants, right? Like, we want everybody to experience the magic that we know to be true, what digital ownership perpetuates, what that means for fandom, what that means for enterprise value of IP. And we know that once new people are ready to enter the ecosystem, you're going to need an easy onboarding experience. You're going to need a familiar checkout experience. Right now, one of the biggest issues with people coming into the space is that not a lot of people are comfortable with buying cryptocurrency, writing down seed phrases, transferring money from an exchange into a MetaMask wallet. Like, these are not easy processes. So we wanted to build a product that, whether it's 100 new people that we reach, 1,000 new people, 1 million new people, when they come into this experience, it's a familiar experience for them. It's like they're buying other digital goods that they know really well, like Roblox or FIFA Ultimate Team or things like that. So working with Flow and the Dapper Wallet was ultimately an opportunity for us to bring new people into our ecosystem at the top of our funnel to at least enter our digital collectible ecosystem, and then ultimately they learn a little bit more by being associated with the brand. And one day maybe they actually travel all the way down to the funnel and they own an original doodle and they're really interested in everything else that Web3 has to offer. But you need something to get them in first and foremost. And in addition to people being able to come into the product in a really easy way, it's also an incredible experience for our current community to create really new experiences with their doodles. Like, what we found with the original collection, you always kind of had to sacrifice a little bit, right? You got one trait that you liked, there's another trait that you might not have liked as much, but you had to sacrifice because sometimes you weren't just going to get the perfect thing. So what we were able to do with Doodles 2 was ultimately let you build the doodle of your dreams. Now you're going to be able to layer on incredible traits, incredible artwork, and basically build your perfect doodle, which is something we know our community loves to do. It's perpetuating a behavior that they already know and love today, where they're layering on additional artwork, they're putting their doodle in different settings. So we basically are building this tool where you're going to be able to express yourself, create your own identity, and that's all going to be delivered through this incredible build your own doodle tool. So we're very excited about the collaborations and the love from the community that's already been seen.
Absolutely. And I remember the announcement that made a ton of waves when you announced that Doodles was acquiring Golden Wolf. And Ingi, I'd love to hear a little bit about your journey into Web3. Like, how did that kind of go for you in terms of going from the animation into Web3? And then Julian, I'd love to hear what's to come from this acquisition.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's interesting, right? So we started doing we started like 10 years ago. And when we started, there was very little social media. There was like, Tumblr was kind of like the predominant thing. So we were like, as an animation studio, we were making our own content. We were like doing like GIFs or like content just to like put online just because we wanted to do it. And over the years, like that content became like more and more the stuff that we wanted to do. And in the end, it was probably like 50-50, like, client projects and then stuff just for ourselves and putting stuff online. So when NFTs came around, it was like, well, this is what we've been doing this whole time, except, now there's like a new way for people to interact with it. It's not just like farming, like it's actually about like kind of engaging with people and like letting people in on the journey. And, we started, we worked with a few projects, we've kind of, dabbled in it, but like, we hadn't really kind of truly like gone in, because I think, doing an NFT project is a huge responsibility, and like, I don't want to jump into that and then kind of like let our advertising clients down or let the NFT community down, and teaming up with Doodles is the perfect opportunity for us to do all the things that we've been wanting to do, but also like use our animations to connect with people in a different way. So like, I think storytelling is changing a lot, and I think advertising is changing a lot from being like super passive to being actually kind of like centered on the person. And so I think like if we can connect like digital identities with entertainment and like storytelling, then I think that would be an amazing goal to have.
Amazing. And Julian, from your perspective too, like an acquisition like this, bringing on an animation studio for Doodles, like what does that mean? And how are you thinking about the role of animation in driving Doodles and its IP forward?
Ultimately, what animation means to us is creating content that people are going to know and love. We want to create characters that really resonate with the population greatly. We want to, build IP that people truly, truly care about. So obviously, one of the best ways to do that is to create media content, and in our case, animation. It's very difficult to get the current establishment in traditional media to get like the term NFT and Web3 and crypto like kind of out of their way before they realize like where the value is. Like we're still very early on that front. Like as much access as Doodles has, there's a lot of work that needs to go into getting these traditional media companies to look at IP very differently from what they're looking at it as today, which is basically, hey, NFTs are just like another action figure we can sell. We're literally just licensing our IP out. It's the consumer products teams that handle all of this at these big companies. So when you come to them with the idea of incubating new IP, it's kind of difficult for the creators to really get it. So for us, rather than kind of wait for Hollywood to come around, no, we're going to go do it ourselves. We're going to build it with best-in-class partners that are really leaned in and understand what this ultimately is, which is a way to completely change the fan, consumer, collector's mindset on why they engage with IP. So having a full-blown animation studio in-house at Doodles is going to advance that area of our roadmap in a way that just would not be possible by trying to piece it together slowly. But it's not easy to get a traditional media company or a creative studio to dive in the way that Ingi and his team has, because it's still scary for a lot of people. Like Web3 is still not an easy thing for everybody to wrap their minds around. But luckily, we had an awesome experience working with them on a spot that we created for the initial rollout of Doodles 2, and we had awesome experience working with them. Their team is incredible. They've all been together for 5, 8, 15 years. Like, they're some of the most creative, smart people in the entire space. And we clicked right away. So, I mean, if you could see the stuff that we're working on underneath the hood right now and like what some of the visuals look like, what some of the stories are going to end up being, like this is really our opportunity to show the world that like some of the strongest IP in the world is going to be born out of Web3, and it really is going to take embracing the traditional way of doing things with this new technology, which is not just another product to sell. It's ultimately a new format for content and IP development that I'm telling you 99.9% of people are not looking at it that way. So when this space even matures just a little bit, it's going to blow everybody away.
I love that. I love that. And for those who don't know, Julian and I go back years, actually. We worked together at Billboard for years before I started NFT Now and before he left for Doodles. And it's really exciting to see just what you're building in the space and what you're growing. I'd love to talk a little bit about the game that you're playing, because it feels like you guys are playing a bit of a different game than a lot of these other NFT projects, quote unquote PFP projects. Thinking about the value of digital identity, and especially taking it to like the wearables concept and building IP around that. Like, tell us a little bit about like that vision there.
Yeah. So our thesis is that digital ownership is going to win, and people are really going to care about it. We know that people love collecting physical items right now. You will pay a lot of money for a vintage Birkin bag or a Michael Jordan jersey or a Wayne Rooney jersey, whatever the thing that you care about might be. And you usually pay a lot of money for those things because they're tied to a narrative, a moment that you as the collector wants to be part of. The problem is it's really hard to scale the concept of physical collecting and authenticate that things come from where they say they come from. There's constant examples of people losing out on like fake, first edition packs of Pokemon cards and things like that. The blockchain actually solves that, right? The blockchain is provenance. It's a public ledger of transactions that is not mutable, right? Like it is very provable where things came from and where they were on the blockchain at specific points in time. You compound that with the fact that there's this generational shift going on where younger consumers care more and more about the things that they own digitally. Like owning digital things is not really that novel, right? Like people bought land in Farmville, people buy stuff in Roblox and Fortnite. But when you combine the concept of blockchain with owning digital goods, you create a whole new format and a whole new opportunity for people to have identity associated with the things they collect, because now you're talking about an interconnected ecosystem. When you own something in Roblox, when you own something in Fortnite, it lives and dies in those ecosystems. But all these companies around the world right now, big companies, Live Nation, PlayStation, Paramount, all these big media companies and distribution companies are building blockchain infrastructure that's going to allow you to bring your tokens, your NFTs, into their environments. So imagine owning a Doodle and your Doodle being able to unlock free coffee at a coffee shop that you walk into, or your Doodle being able to unlock some sort of VIP experience at an event that we build, or a partnership that we have with Live Nation or a concert promoter. And then your Doodle can actually be licensed to be seen in the media that we create, whether it be a music video or a movie or a television show. This thing that you own, that you constantly upgrade and that you're always thinking about, like the collector's mentality and you're sharing, ultimately becomes your access pass into your everyday life. So your NFTs, your digital collectibles, can be side by side with the official characters that we develop, and they grow together. That's never happened in the history of IP development, and that is going to change the way people think about where they spend their time. Am I going to be a passive participant, or am I going to be part of that universe? And for me, that's really where so much of this promise lives. And the only way that you can drive that kind of demand is by building media content that people are truly going to care about. And some people might just buy the t-shirt. Some people might just watch the television show, whatever it is, and that's fine. But some people are going to want a deeper connection to that IP, and that's where Web3 is really going to shine. And I think we're just starting to see it. The feedback loops are constant. The expectations are really high, and they should be. But it takes a long time to build IP that people really care about. I think things happen a lot faster in this world that we're living in today. But I'd say like in the next couple years, 2023, 2024, that's really going to be the time where like products are actually starting to be shipped out of PFP communities and not just promises. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
I love that. I love that. Products, not promises. That's a good line. I like that one. I might use that at some point. No, really appreciate all that context. And Ingi, I think like one thing that we were chatting about before is by kind of like as we move towards mainstream adoption, we're going to have to really change minds, and there will always be a bit of an uphill climb whenever you're pioneering anything. I understand that while the Golden Wolf acquisition was met with a lot of excitement in the Web3 community, there was a bit of a different reaction in the animation community. Maybe you could just speak to that and what you feel like that is kind of indicative of as we kind of move this forward.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting, right? I mean I think we had 3,500 comments on the tweet that we did. Maybe like 1,000 of them were like, fuck you. And I get it, right? I get it, and I think there's a lot of parts to it, and I think obviously one of the things is like the kind of large part of the community that rallied against it, are in traditional media, right? They're working at Disney, they're working at Nickelodeon, like they're doing shows, and like traditionally, like or historically, there's like it's long hours, like it's a lot of work, a lot of people work towards the same thing, but they're not necessarily getting like a whole lot from it, right? And so I think it's easy to see NFTs as like a quick way to make money, or kind of like a selling out of the arts in a way. But I think it's also like a fear of change, right? And I think we see the same thing with AI. Like I think a lot of people see AI, especially in art. Like you can just type something into Midjourney and it just kind of like makes the thing. And I think people can just look at that at face value and think, well, okay, like I'm out of a job. But at the end of the day, if everyone can do it, then you need people who are really good at doing it to kind of stand out, right? Like having Spotify is not going to make you a great DJ, right? So, I see it. Generally, I see that reaction as a fear of change, and if you've decided to be against something at some point, then you're probably just going to stick to that. Like it's a little bit of group, like, sort of herd mentality. But honestly, for me, I think it was good. I think we've been working with NFT and Web3 brands for a while, and like it's always been a subject where we're like, when are we going to kind of just like really dive in, and like rip the Band-Aid, and I feel like that was the moment. And it's been incredibly freeing, to be honest. And I don't think any of our clients are thinking about not working with us. They're all kind of doing similar projects, and I think it just means that we can kind of be open about what we want to be doing and actually like build something that I think really can change the world and really change the way that we interact with stories and media, and kind of like take the concept of like building a character in a game, but like having that in like a TV show or whatever have you. Like kind of really allowing people to have a digital identity that they can take with them, and it not to just live like in one place, but maybe it's in a TV show, or people have talked about like watching a Netflix show, but it's me in the show, or me in the movie, and those are the types of ideas I think are really interesting to us, and technology that we're working on.
Absolutely. I mean, people have always feared what they don't understand. Last question for you, Julian. Obviously, the past week or two have been, the headlines have been about OpenSea and Blur and the marketplace wars and the dropping and the cutting of the creator royalty. I'm curious, like, what does that mean for a project like Doodles, and how does that impact how you think about like navigating the landscape in terms of revenue streams and building sustainability?
Yeah. So I think we've anticipated this coming, right? Like, enforcing royalties would ultimately be a race to the bottom, and this is the reality that has unfortunately occurred today. And for a company like Doodles, it's not as much of an issue because we're positioned really well to invest capital in diversifying revenue across the board, while ultimately delivering value back to our community through a number of different practices. And the unfortunate part about this is, while it's not going to affect companies like Doodles much, it is going to affect a lot of people that were trying to tap into the promise of Web3, and they no longer have that sustainable revenue source of secondary royalties for people that care about their art. And they're not going to be able to cultivate brands and art projects the way that I think like the promise of Web3 had led them to believe. And that's really unfortunate, because a lot of innovation has happened in the last year, and the fact that some of that might be cut off because we as an industry haven't come together to think of a better way to actually drive that value forward and actually create a new scenario. It is unfortunate, but it's important to us. We're having conversations that will hopefully lead to better solutions in the future. But somebody needs to make this like their life's work, right? Somebody needs to really make this, like we're happy as like one of the top creators in the space to actually, drive some of that conversation and bring people together. But the space does deserve better. It was definitely an unfortunate, turn of events in the last few weeks, and it's been obviously on people's minds for months.
Absolutely. I know we are over time, so I'm going to wrap right now. Everybody give it up for Julian and Ingi.